Awesome. Good morning, folks. My name is Chrisbeth Cowie. I'm the founder of Empowered for X and the host of Bizgrams. Each day, I get an opportunity to interview a dynamic entrepreneur who's making a positive difference in our community. And I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to be interviewing Norma this morning. Norma, how are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you.
Awesome. Norma, tell us a little bit more about yourself and who or what inspired you on your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I'll first start by saying I am an author entrepreneur, and I use my contents of my books as a compass to assist at-risk youth, Black youths, and their family. So how did I start this journey? I have had been a nurse for 46 years, long before you were born. And the last job I did was the hardest job, the most difficult, but it was developing healthcare for incarcerated youth in Ontario. And I realized that of all the youth that have been incarcerated, I would say 90 to 95% were Indigenous and Black youth. So when you're inside, you can help a few of those youth find a different pathway. But after I retired, I thought, what can I do to help? Because families also needed a lot of help. So I became an author. Never thought that I would ever write a book. But when I look at those youth that have been incarcerated, their lives were far better than the life I had growing up. I was abandoned. I was left to die as an infant. And with a grandmother, here I am today helping others. So my first book, you can see behind me, Young Lives on the Line. That was my first book. And it has contents to teach young people and to teach families how they can love and build relationship with their children so that they don't end up being incarcerated.
Yeah, I think that is so powerful. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I think, maybe we need a full segment just to dive deeper into that book to learn about, you talk about being abandoned, left to die. I think, sometimes we as people may not physically go through that, but we feel that way and we feel rejected from the world. And hence the reason, we may turn to alternative sources of, trying to survive, which I think your book and what you're doing to help families and the youth in particular is showing them an alternative path, and that is really powerful.
Yes.
That is really powerful. So talk to us as an entrepreneur, a little more about the book that you have written and, what is the main takeaway that you'd like people to get from your book?
The main takeaway is that there is no reason at all that any of our Black kids should be in jail. None. Because there's many things that we can do to prevent that ever happening. So in the book, I told my story. And as I said, it's been an horrific childhood. And some of the Black youth that are incarcerated, they have lived a very good life, except there has not been any relationship with their parents. So that's how they go astray. So in Young Lives on the Line, there are examples of youth. Of course, you have to change their names so that they're not identifiable. But there are youth that I have mentored that would have been in jail had not someone intervened. So what I do podcasts, I do speaking engagements. I come to your house, I sit on your carpet if that is what you would like. I go to speak at the libraries. I speak to police officers because I was the last chair, the most recent chair of the Peel Police Services Board. And I get to speak to officers about the behaviors that are seen in Black youth. Please do not go by the behaviors, look beyond that. There are many root causes for the behaviors that are demonstrated, and we need to address the root causes. So public speaking, speaking at schools, speaking at the libraries to parents, any opportunity that comes, I am invited and I go. So of course, COVID has stopped most of that, but I am so looking forward to starting this again.
Hey, that is wonderful. And the work that you're doing is definitely needed. I love your process and the way that you're engaging. It's a truly proactive approach to, getting to the root cause of the problems that we oftentimes see in society. I
Yeah.
know on your entrepreneurial journey, that you've also, developed a publishing press where you help other people publish their books as well. Do you want to just talk about that a little?
Well, initially I had an organization called Ignite for Youth. And we had a very large conference, invited folks from all over Ontario. And then I found there were many other organizations that were doing similar work. So I joined with those organizations, and then I canceled Ignite for Youth. So Ignite Press is where I now join with other local authors that we develop our books. Right now, I'm editing 2 books for young Black men who I found on LinkedIn that says, I want to write a book and I don't know how. And that's what I'm working at. And if you can look behind me, I've published 4 books so far. And and they're sold on Amazon. And I also can drop books off at people's home. So that's what I do. I want to help. And when I say, I can come to your house, the first question is, how much do you charge? And I say, I charge nothing except I would like you to purchase a book so you can have it to review the discussion we've had. And I don't charge, except if it's a large organization that offers me a honorarium. And then I give the honorarium back to a youth shelter to help them, because I am so grateful and thankful that I've been on a journey where I never thought I would be the one reaching out to help others.
Hey, I think it is a beautiful journey that you're on. And what I heard from what you just shared, really talking about, not necessarily wanting to reinvent the wheel, but finding spaces where you can collaborate and work together with others to help move a mission forward. So that is really powerful. And I want to just say thank you for the work that you're doing. It is almost like the heart of gold. You have a heart of gold, really wanting to see true difference. And one of the things as a young person growing up, I really wanted to, my mantra still today has been, I want to make a positive difference. And when I really looked at, the world is so vast and the problems are so great, and what I've come to is realize that I cannot help everyone, but what my responsibility is to take one step. Who can I help today? How can I start with one and then use that as a way to really leverage and, support others in championing the good work? And so it's amazing to hear the work that you're doing to support, these young men on their authorship journey. Imagine what a book would do for that person to just transform their life. As I'm talking about books, I am working on my first book, so I'll definitely have to connect with you to pick some brains and how I get this thing done, because it's the how sometimes you get bottlenecked with, right? And, to find a sage like yourself along this journey who has done it and done it well, to be able to say, learn, learn and grow together and support each other. I love the method of, you don't have to pay, but by purchasing this book and making a commitment to read this book, it will change your mind and change the heart of your community. So you're doing an amazing, amazing job. So thank you so much for that.
There have
Yes.
been schools that have purchased like 30, 40 books for a classroom. And what I do then is I go and tell my story, and then I have them share on a piece of paper and pass it along without any names. And it's amazing how there have been similar stories and how some individuals, they are really struggling to find a way to success.
Mhm.
And then I go back to the school 3 months later and I say, now, what parts of the book have you been using in your growth? So I
Mhm.
do follow up.
I think that is wonderful. It's not just about the one-offs. And I love, meeting people like yourself who are committed to being on this journey as people are going through, taking the learnings, applying the learnings, and then moving forward. And your approach of being proactive is definitely what is needed as we're grooming and nurturing community, families, and individuals to make a positive difference and regain some set of, a vision, a brighter vision for their futures. Their potential is just at this moment in time to be just untapped, right? So you're helping them unearth and birth that great potential that they have within. So thank you again for the work that you're doing. So talk to us a little bit about your authorship journey. What has been some of the greatest challenges that you've experienced and the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Oh, in writing my first book, I thought you could just sit and write your thoughts, which I did, which is where one starts. And then because of my story, I was totally ashamed of telling someone what happened during my childhood. So even all my best friends during nursing school, I have never told anyone but my husband and children about my journey. And so, in order to get buy in to say, how can you help children that have gone astray if you have no sense of what it is? So, I wrote it down. I asked one person confidentially to read it for me, and then she became excited about it. And then I took it to an editor. I did not know that I should look around to get different editors. So I went with the first editor I learned about, and it cost me mega bucks. And then I also was not aware of how helpful Amazon's platform is. So then I went to a printing press that was recommended by the editor. There I paid mega bucks. So the lessons learned is when you want to write a book, write your heart out, a notepad, a notebook, on Word document, share it with 2 or 3 individuals confidentially. Do not share with someone who's going to say, I like this. Ask for real input, whether it's negative or positive, because you want your audience to hear this narrative that is so true, and they can actually go and use some of that information to impact their lives. So I will not go back to any printing press nor any one editor. And in meeting with other authors, that's something one must do. Learn about author groups, local groups, meet with them and really learn from them and share what you know. And then you learn, how do you produce a book? How do you do copyrights? How do you do ISBN? How do you get your book up on Facebook? How do you publish your book? Do you want to self-publish, or do you want to look for a publishing company? And by the way, Publishing companies take 1 to 2 years, and you pay mega bucks. And you just hope that you sell a lot of books to get that money back. But my focus, as I shared, is to help people with the contents of my book. So I publish on KDP platform and Amazon, and you do not pay anything except when you order books, because I order books to have book fairs. I go to studios where young people gather, and I have a reading opportunity. You can read in the library. There are so many opportunities. So you write that book, and I will certainly do the first editing for you.
Hey, that is awesome. I got, now that I'm speaking it, I got to do it, right? And one of the things I would say on my journey as I'm working through this book, I've been just recording myself and doing the transcribing, and I find like that has helped me just to like unload all of the thoughts that's going around that specific topic. But
Right.
one thing that you shared that really resonated with me is the reality is, as you're writing a book, for that human connection to happen, you have to be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And so especially with the type of book that you're talking about, and even if it is not as deep as yours, realizing if you're offering tips or advice, you got to inject you into that narrative, or a human element, the heart, right? The heart and the soul, the essence of the book in it, the story and narrative in itself. So thank you so much for sharing that. And you shared a lot of pitfalls or lessons learned in those ways, from editing all the way to publishing. And I think for anyone that's considering to be an author, you definitely want to get in contact with Norma, and as she suggested, find author groups that you can learn and be mentored by others along the journey as well. Yes. So Norma, tell us a little bit about, something that you're most proud of on your authorship journey, or your greatest accomplishment that you'd like to share here with us today.
There are so many, but I think the one I'll share is having the opportunity to become a member of the Peel Police Services Board. And after being a member for 2 years, I became the vice president or vice chair. And then in my 4th year, I became the chairperson. What an opportunity that gave me. I can share 2 brief stories. Out in Peel, where I live, when there's a board meeting, there are not many folks that come to visit. And I actually did an outreach to the Black community and say, if you have an issue or concern that you want to move higher than a police unit, bring it to a board meeting. And I taught them how to do delegations. Say what your topic is, what you would like to see change. And one example of a delegation was they do not want to have police officers in the schools because of the negative impacts on minority children in school. And it all depends on learning about their culture. And then behind the scenes, I had an opportunity to explain why it's not good to have officers in the school. I am so humbled that I had some input into that. I also shadowed a teacher at one of the Peel schools, and I wanted to know, how can I get through to those kids when they don't use books? There are kids that have disabilities, mental illness, physical disability, autism. Oh, what a brave teacher. And I spent 2 days with her in the classroom, just shadowing and seeing children can actually learn without opening the page of a book. She had flip charts, she had color paper, she had programs on computers. And the one program we worked on when I was there the second day was, how do you send an egg, which is not boiled, not cooked? How do you send an egg from Toronto to Whitby and ensure it's not broken? So she puts all the different things that you need to put in the package. And would you believe that most of those kids, that egg arrives safely because they learn how to safely package, and then they look at themselves and say, how do I take care of myself so that I don't break?
Hey, that is powerful.
Yeah, there has been some very wonderful opportunities, because if I go all the way back to when I managed healthcare for the youth in the facility, it's the Roy McMurtry Youth Center in
Yeah,
Brampton.
yeah.
198 youth are incarcerated there.
Mm.
So when you see these Black youth, they will say, I don't want to see any person but the nurse or the nurse manager. And they will pour their heart out because they know you're not going to judge them. You're going to say, what would you like to see when you get out of here? Who can we connect you with in your community? Do you need housing? Do you need money? Do you need to go back to school? And in healthcare, we never talk about the crime that was committed. We talked about how can we help you move forward. So I've had a very interesting journey. It's just been awesome. When you meet some of these young people now and they say, Miss Norma, here I am working. And I thought, awesome. Just give me a high five and you just keep going.
Hey, that
Yes.
is such a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing. And I've had the privilege of going into Royal McMurtry as well. And
Ah,
we've been able to provide some youth employment opportunities for, youth that were coming out of that space. And I could testify, I could honestly say my first time going into such a confinement, it changes you as a person. You realize that, not having kids of my own yet, but having mentored many young kids over the years, realizing that that could be one of the kids that have worked with, and realizing that that's a life. And what I also saw was like majority in that space is our Black youth, and that broke my heart as well. And realizing that we need to do something different, right? And I think the work that you are doing to try to reach and empower and educate and support these youth as they navigate this space is so important and much needed. And to your point, the reality is, should they end up there in the first place, some of the crimes or things that was mentioned that was done, I'm like, I know people that don't look like that person who got in trouble, got a talk, their parents spoke to them or someone else talked to them, and not being able to shift the narrative that you now need to be incarcerated. Like, it is some extreme stuff against, as you talk about, a lot of Indigenous and Black youth. So, thank you for the work that you're continuing to do. So tell us a little, what would you say would be one advice you have for authors or entrepreneurs on their entrepreneurial journey?
start with a good background. Ensure that this is what you have a passion to do, because I don't write fiction. Some people love to write fictions. And so be sure it's a passion so that you can write from your heart. Also, check what audience would you like to be reading this book. For me, it's parents, youth, and also any kind educators that want to know more about minorities. And so to be the kind of author that I am, is I am so passionate about what I do. I want to see whatever I put on paper, that it's attached to some outcomes, Like, what will happen when someone read this book? Will they learn and then apply it, whether to their lives or someone they know? Because even my next book, Walking Miles, that you can see to my right, that's my memoir about nursing. And so I ensure this book gets into the hands of nursing students and nurses that have graduated. What is the journey going to be like along those hospital corridors and behind those drapes? What can you expect, and how do you ensure your care is patient-centered? It's not about you. It's about the person that you're taking care of. Yeah, so those are the tips I would give. If you want to be a good author, be sure that you're being validated and you're saying things from your heart. Don't make it up.
That is wonderful advice. And viewers, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Norma, it has been a dynamic experience interviewing you today. My final question is, what is something that you do to recharge or express self-love in a phonetical way? And phonetical is my word, so fun and epic combined for great or small adventures that are memorable and impactful. So what is something that you do to, remain as invigorated and excited and, just full of tenacity as you have shared with us here today?
I have a pet.
Hey.
Yeah, when I retired, I read about the free the Korean dogs.
Okay.
So I adopted a poodle that came all the way from South Korea, and he's the joy of my life. I got up this morning at 8 o'clock because he woke up from his bed, came and scratched on the side of my bed. And my husband says, "There's your son, ready to go for a walk." And as we walk along the street, he's bouncing along. And I have met so many of my neighbors. So 2 books above me are all about Cody. Cody's adventures in Canada.
Hey.
Why folks should get a puppy. If you want to adopt a puppy, get it from a rescue, because you are saving a life. And every day I look at Cody and I say, I love you so much. So he gets my day going all the way through the day.
Hey, that is such a wonderful phonetical experience to have. I will definitely say, I don't have any pets here in Canada, but in Trinidad and Tobago, I know the joy of having puppies and, animals just running around. So that is such a wonderful tip that you shared with us. Norma, tell viewers how they can get in contact with you to learn more about your stories, your books, and really to support the work that you're doing in the community.
I have a wonderful webpage, www.normanicholson.ca. And on that webpage, you can even find some of the outreach that I do, and you can call me with a topic. I travel. I've been even to Saskatchewan. I've been all over Ontario. Yeah, just to speak to families. So my webpage, the other connection is I am on Facebook Norma Nicholson 58. So you look for Norma Faye Nicholson 58 on Facebook. And I love to give my email, which is n.nicholson@rogers.com. Those are 3 ways.
Hey, that is awesome. And we'll be sure to put that information in the description. I just flipped my camera so the folks on Instagram can see you, Norma. So if you want to just wave, that would be awesome so that they can see you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Norma, again, I just want to say this has been a dynamic show, learning about your story, learning about your journey. You've shared books. I typically ask, what's a book that you'd like to share? We will definitely list all of the books that you shared, put it in the description so folks can definitely get access to it. And I believe you mentioned they are available on Amazon. So
Yes.
we'll be sure to make sure you have those connections there. One of the things we always do here at Empowered Facts is sending you out with lots of love for today and beyond, really knowing that you're making such a positive difference in our community. I just want to say thank you from our team here at Empowered Facts to your team, supporting you with the books and the writings. And it's really powerful, the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for being here on the show with us today.
Much love.
Yes. Lots of love. And so take care, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you folks for joining us today, and tune in again tomorrow. Another dynamic entrepreneur is going to be gracing us, and we look forward to having you back on the show. Take care. Bye.
Bye.